Hi, I'm Ken Weinstein, CEO of Hudson Institute, and I'm here today to talk about the importance of bilateral American foreign and defense policy relationships. The Obama administration faces absolutely unprecedented challenges. Over 180,000 American troops on the ground in Afghanistan and Iraq, fighting two very different wars, and one in Afghanistan that is becoming increasingly complicated. Afghanistan bordering on our ostensible ally Pakistan, a country with large ungovernable regions that have become a haven for al-Qaeda terrorists. We face a resurgent Russia. We face an Iran that seems to be on the verge of obtaining nuclear capacity. Under a theocracy that is devoted to an obsessive anti-Western theology. On top of this, there's the case of North Korea, a vital, brutal dictatorship that holds Japanese citizens hostage and also is on the verge or has already acquired ostensibly nuclear weapons. These challenges are multifaceted, they're complex, they're often interrelated. And in order to face these challenges, the Obama administration has said that it will place a greater emphasis on multilateralism. Now, multilateralism is a very important tool of American foreign policy and can be a very important tool for global stability. But look at the situation in Afghanistan. Afghanistan, in comparison to the war in Iraq, is often cited as the multilateral war par excellence. There are over 30 countries with troops on the ground in Afghanistan, contributing all sorts of different capabilities to the fight there, as opposed to the situation in Iraq, where there was a much smaller coalition of the willing that operated without full UN sanction, as in Afghanistan. But in Afghanistan, we face, frankly, absolutely intense pressures, and the war in Afghanistan is going decidedly less well than the war in Iraq, despite the cooperation of our European allies, who frankly don't often have the kind of military projection capabilities or force sizes needed to handle the complicated man-to-man combat of the war on terror. We need to not simply rely upon multilateralism, which is an important tool, but we also need to keep in mind the importance of critical bilateral relations. And here I think that over time the Obama administration will come to rely upon the George Bush administration's general notion of relying upon critical bilateral relations as an important tool to achieve critical foreign and defense policy goals. Nowhere, I think, was the Bush administration more successful in pursuing these goals than in Asia, where the administration fostered new, cordial, and strong relations reinforced with Japan, which had always been the U.S.'s closest ally for the past several decades in Asia, but also with India, a burgeoning democracy which has become a critical ally in the war on terror. And I think the Obama administration would do well to learn the lessons of these two successful alliances and to try to build upon these alliances to create the architecture for a new and stable Asia. Japan and India are two countries with large educated populations. Japan in particular has got the kind of technological prowess that in a very short period of time will allow that country, if it so chooses, to project power effectively in Asia to face the potential crises we may face there. And I think it is very, very critical that the Japanese, who almost alone among the nations of the world have felt less comfortable under an Obama administration than under a Bush administration, it is essential that the Obama administration take critical steps to let the Japanese know that the U.S. Japan bilateral relationship remains for them, in the words of former Ambassador to Japan Mike Mansfield, the most important bilateral relation in the world, bar none. The Bush administration, for all its emphasis on the U.S. Japan bilateral relationship, in the end did a very poor job of keeping the Japanese apprised of developments in the six-party talks. The United States, under the direction of Assistant Secretary of State Chris Hill, spent an awful lot of time in the six-party talks dealing primarily with the Chinese, but almost exclusively with the North Koreans, to the detriment of the U.S. Japan alliance. And this action, in fact, has caused some harm to the U.S. Japan alliance. So it is critical that the Obama administration do what it can to reassure the Japanese of the primacy of that relationship and of our need to work together for the security and prosperity of Asia. Thank you very much.
I think